All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something I know all of our learners are going to love, and that's memory. And we've got a ton of material to get through. Really, it's a pretty fascinating, comprehensive look at all the ways you can, sharpen your memory.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing the range of things that can actually make a difference.
And it is. And we want to make this super practical for you, right? So we're going to pull out the most effective, most actionable tips so you can start, improving your memory today. So one of the things that really jumped out to me from looking at all this material is just how powerful what we eat is for brain function.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's kind of a foundational piece, right?
Yeah, it is.
And what's so interesting is how consistently these sources point to specific nutrients, like omega-3 fatty acids. Those are crucial for brain cell health. And you can find those in things like fish, nuts, flax
Oh,
seeds.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And then antioxidants, those are super important too because they help protect those brain cells. And you've got tons of those in things like berries and dark chocolate.
Oh, all right.
Everyone loves a little dark chocolate.
There's your excuse. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, of course, healthy fats like those found in avocados and olive oil, those are really vital for overall brain function.
So it really is about fueling up, right? Like
Yeah.
giving your body the right building blocks.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
It all starts with what you're putting in your body. And actually, along those lines, another thing that kept coming up was the importance of hydration, making sure you're drinking enough water.
Oh, yeah.
And the flip side of that, limiting the sugary drinks, the processed foods, those can really work against you when it comes to memory.
So fueling up, well, that's definitely foundational, right? But what about moving our bodies? I mean, exercise, it sounds like it's not just about physical health.
Right.
It actually directly benefits our memory, too.
It does, and it's fascinating how it all ties in. When you exercise, you're increasing blood flow to the brain, so you're delivering all that essential oxygen and nutrients.
Makes sense.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be, hardcore training, whether it's cardio, like walking, running, cycling, or strength training, it all makes a difference.
Okay.
And even the gentler forms of exercise, like yoga and stretching, those are beneficial because they can help reduce stress, which, as we know, can really be a memory killer.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And speaking of things that can hinder our memory, sleep seems absolutely crucial. Like,
Yeah.
our brains really need that time
Yeah.
to process and store information effectively, right?
Absolutely. Sleep is when that magic happens. That memory consolidation, that's when it really kicks in.
So are we talking like a solid 8 hours?
Most of the sources recommend aiming for 7 to 9 hours.
Okay.
And one thing that I found really interesting was how much emphasis was placed on the impact of blue light, that light from our phones and our screens.
Oh, yeah.
If you're exposing yourself to that right before bed, it can really mess with your sleep quality.
So true.
So establishing a relaxing bedtime routine, that's actually a really simple but powerful win when it comes to improving your memory.
Okay, that's good advice. And, it kind of leads us to another modern challenge, which is stress. I mean, it sounds like chronic stress can really take a toll on our memory.
It can, and it's all about the hormones, really. When you're stressed out for prolonged periods, your body releases these hormones that can actually have a negative impact on the areas of your brain involved in memory.
Wow.
So it's crucial to find ways to manage that stress, and the sources highlight a variety of techniques that can be really helpful. Things like mindfulness meditation,
Yeah.
deep breathing exercises, even just dedicating time to hobbies and relaxation. It all provides a buffer against that constant stress.
Okay. So we've talked about, kind of the lifestyle basics.
Yeah.
But what about like actively engaging our minds, right? Do we need to like give our brains a workout?
You absolutely do. And that's where the fun stuff comes in, I think.
Okay, good.
Because, learning new things, it's like building new pathways in your brain.
Right.
So picking up a new language, learning to play an instrument, those kinds of things create new connections in your brain.
Okay.
And then you have things like brain games, puzzles, chess, those kinds of activities. Those improve your cognitive agility, your ability to think quickly and flexibly.
Like,
And regular reading, of course, that exposes you to new information, strengthens your recall. It's like keeping your mental muscles strong.
so, okay, let's get a little more specific. We've talked about these broad approaches, but what about like actual memory techniques?
Yeah.
Are there like strategies we can consciously use to remember things better?
There are. And what's really cool about these techniques is that they really tap into how our brains naturally work. So, for example, you have mnemonic devices. Those are things like creating acronyms
Right.
or visual associations to make information stickier.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's chunking, which is basically breaking down large amounts of information into smaller, more manageable pieces.
Okay.
That makes it a lot easier to digest. And one of the most effective techniques is actually practicing recall,
Okay.
like testing yourself. That's far more effective than just passively rereading material.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then there's the idea of association. Linking new information to things you already know, that creates stronger pathways for remembering.
Got it. So it's all about being strategic.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? The sources actually highlight that our connections with others, they play a role in memory too, which I never would have thought of.
It's true. And it makes sense when you think about it, right?
Mm.
Because social interaction is mentally stimulating.
Okay.
So engaging in conversations, joining groups, even teaching someone else something you've learned, that helps solidify that information in your own mind.
Oh, that's cool.
It keeps your brain active and engaged in different ways.
So the social butterfly is also a memory whiz. Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got to ask, because we live in, this tech-saturated world, how should we think about technology's impact on our memory?
It's tricky, right? It's a bit of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's super convenient.
Totally.
But the thing is, relying too heavily on things like digital notes, it can actually hinder those natural memory processes that we want to strengthen.
Ah, okay.
So the key is really finding that balance. Like memory apps can be useful,
Right.
things like Anki or Lumosity, but those should be supplementary tools
Yeah.
for practice and reinforcement, not replacements for that active effort and recall.
So don't ditch your notebook just yet.
Right.
Enough. And what about all these distractions, right? Like, how do we focus our attention?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge these days.
Yeah.
And it really does tie back to memory because if you can't focus, you're not going to retain information effectively. So practicing mindfulness, taking breaks, those can really help you improve your concentration.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, this last point I found really fascinating, and that is that our mindset, our belief in our ability to improve our memory, that actually makes a difference.
It's amazing how much power our thoughts have. And it's really about that self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? If you believe you can improve, you're more likely to put in the effort, and that leads to actual progress.
It's almost like if you have a positive mindset,
Yeah.
you're more likely to stick with all those other things we talked about, like the healthy eating, the exercise.
Absolutely. And that positive mindset, it just kind of creates this upward spiral. It boosts your confidence, your motivation, and that can enhance your cognitive performance across the board. And even simple things like keeping a gratitude journal, that can contribute to your overall well-being, and that supports healthy brain function.
So it sounds like what we're really talking about is a holistic approach. It's not just one thing. It's not just about eating blueberries or doing crosswords. It's about nourishing your body and your mind, actively engaging your brain, using smart strategies, and just, having that belief in
I
yourself.
think that's a really great way to sum it up. It's about creating this lifestyle that supports memory.
Exactly. So the learner, it's clear that boosting your memory, it's a multifaceted endeavor. But the good news is, even small, consistent changes across these different areas, they can lead to noticeable improvements.
And I think the most important takeaway is you don't have to do everything at once. Just pick one thing, one strategy that resonates with you, and start there.
I love that. So as you think about all the things we've discussed today, what's that one thing that you want to try that you think could make the biggest difference for you? And what's one tiny, actionable step you can take today, right now, to start exploring its benefits?
It's exciting, isn't it? The power is in your hands.
It is. All right, thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep learning.